Hello, and welcome again to On the Way, and I'm Tammy Blake. So, I finally got the introduction episode, although it ran a little long. I decided I wanted to just keep on going, and so here I am. I'll go until it's not bright outside. So, as I was living in Germany and exploring my relationship with God, and I was in conversation with him, like I said, daily, continually. I didn't realize it at the time, but in retrospect, I was being taught to let him lead me with almost blind faith. Now, I know he gives us all a will, and I know that we are to use our will. We aren't supposed to just think that we're supposed to float along in life, because that's the reason why he gives us a will. But when I look back at all the lessons that I got from the times that I was in the mountains and hiking and talking to God, I know exactly what he was doing. At the time, I really didn't, but in retrospect, I do. He would make his presence known to me, not in the light again. I didn't experience that again, but in forms of light, coming through trees in a special way that made me feel his presence. The glistening dew on a fern that was under trees where there was no light otherwise. Things like that. And so seeing those things and being led to look at those things and feeling God made me start to think that all we have to do is seek him. Like the Bible says, all we have to do is seek him. And that's what he was teaching me. He was teaching me that he was everywhere I looked for him, and that he would always be there for me. And as my life progressed in Germany, my marriage started to deteriorate, and I began to lean on him a lot. I didn't want a second failed marriage. I left my husband and didn't want it to end, and I didn't know what else to do because I felt broken. I was pretty broken, and without sharing a lot of personal stuff, I just leaned on God a lot. And one day, when I was in tearful prayer and somewhat feeling sorry for myself, I heard a distinctive, "Be content." And I thought that meant, this is your life, so you need to be content. And I'm a rule follower, so okay, this is your will, I get it, and so I just kept going forward. Kept hiking, and we traveled a lot in Europe, and I got to come home to the States quite a few times a year. But as time went on, and I knew that the marriage was coming to an end, I decided to take a trip back to the States, and this was during COVID. It was 2020, and I want to say it was July, somewhere around there. And when I landed, there was the Chicago Fire Department waiting with pamphlets saying, where are you going to quarantine, when you need to quarantine, and I had already arranged everything to quarantine. And so I flew into Illinois. And the reason why I flew into Illinois is because two of my children that had lived in Colorado previously, because I lived most of my life, I think I said that, in Colorado, had moved to Illinois. My oldest son with his family, he had two children and his wife, and my daughter. And so I flew into Illinois, quarantined there, and was in a lot of prayer because I knew what I thought I needed to do, but at the same time, I felt alone. I knew I had God and that I could rely on him for love and peace and support, but I needed to share this with my children, what I was going through, because I hadn't shared it with them up to that point. So I was in conversation with my son, and he and my daughter, my children, said, it's time, Mom, you need to find yourself again, because they could see how broken I felt. And so they gave me the support that I needed. And I had a lovely visit in Illinois. And I went up to California, got to visit family there, and then I went back to Germany. And I had come up with a plan. So my husband at the time and I had bought a home in Arizona, and I thought I would end up there. But with things changing, I thought I would still end up there because I had a sister and a brother, and my mother at the time was living there. So I thought I'll live there, just not with him in that house. So as I went back to Germany and explained to him what my plans were, this was coming into the fall of 2020, and he still had, he was a contractor out there on an air base, and his contract was up the following April of 2021. And so I said I was going to leave in October. I was going to get us packed up because his contract said that they would ship our furniture home, and I said I'd get us packed up. I'll find you a place to stay, but maybe back in the temporary living quarters. And I'm going to go to Illinois and spend that time from October to April with my children and grandchildren. And then I would go to Arizona and figure out my life at that point. So that was the plan. And I was informed that it takes a while to get the military moving company to come get you packed up, and with COVID it was going to take even more time. It was going to be a long wait. And I thought, well, whenever and however it happens, I'm just letting this happen the way it's supposed to. Well, it happened relatively quickly. It didn't take long at all. And so busy packing, sorting, found a place for him to live, and I'd sold my car. I had a cute little BMW car there, and had decided that I didn't want to take it home with me because it would have been shipped for free, so that wasn't the issue. I just didn't want the car. And so I'd sold it, and sold it to a dealer that actually sells to other military people because it had American specs. We bought it over there, but we had American specs put in it so that we could have brought it home. And we had to take it to a place that was 2 hours away, about 2 hours away. And I was on the base a couple of days before we were supposed to go down there to deliver the car. I was on base selling some Christmas, like German Christmas lights to a airman's wife or something. And I was in the parking lot. I dealt with her, and then I was sitting in my car in the parking lot. And I was busy doing something. I wasn't parked. I was in like the lane of the parking lot, and there were cars like beside me. And up until this day, I had been in a lot of prayer because I didn't know if I was doing the right thing, and I was frightened because I was losing financial stability. I was putting, another marriage through the ringer again. I mean, as far as I was not happy, and we weren't going to be married anymore, and I was sad about that. So I was really questioning if I was doing the right thing, that I didn't know if it was my will or God's will, but I didn't know if it was the right thing to do. So I just felt really despondent and in prayer a lot, more than normal. I mean, I was busy. I wasn't hiking as much. I was busy with stuff in the house and getting things ready, and just really in prayer. Heavy prayer is what I call it when I'm concerned about something, especially concerned about making a huge mistake like I thought I might have been making. But anyway, and so I'm on the base this day, and I'm just sitting in my car. I don't remember what I was doing, but I wasn't ready to leave. I was maybe on my phone. I don't know what I was on, but I didn't notice that an airman had walked probably behind me and gotten to his car that was perpendicular to my car. He was parked. And next thing I know, there's this huge bump on my car. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've just been hit. And it was a loud bump. And like I said, I don't hear well. So I can't tell you how loud it was, but I heard it. So it had to have been substantial. And my car moved. And so I got out of my car, and the young airman didn't even notice he had hit my car. His head was down when I went to his window to knock on his window to say, "Sir, you've hit my car." And he looked up startled, and I said, "You hit my car." And he said, I did. So I don't know if his foot was on the clutch and it was a standard, or if he maybe had it in reverse and his foot slipped off the brake a little bit. I don't know how it happened. So he moved his car forward. We go to look at the damage, and it's a drizzly day like it often is in October. This is around October time frame. And so I'm using the moisture in the air, the rub, trying to get the paint off my car, because I'm thinking, I've sold this car. I have to deliver it in 2 days. And it's not coming off. There is a gouge in my car with the color of his car embedded in it. And I don't remember the color. I want to say brown, but I don't know if that's right. But I'm trying to get it out of there, thinking if I can just get the paint out of there, maybe you won't notice it. And he's trying it too, because we're both like, this really stinks. But so we're in the parking lot as it was, to a lot of buildings, and one of them was the military police building. So he went to go get a police officer, and I called my husband and said, this kid hit me. You need to let the guy know that we can't deliver the car in 2 days. Well, come to find out, he tried, but he couldn't get a hold of him because it was later in the day. And so he was going to try again the next day. But anyway, and so the military policeman comes out. He starts rubbing, thinking he's going to get it off, but there's no getting it off. There's a big scratch with the color. And so he has me park. We go in. We do a police report. And as I'm walking in there, I'm like, whatever this is, it is what it is. I'm not a worrier. I just don't worry about things. Even though I was thinking I'm supposed to deliver it in 2 days and I'm supposed to leave in 2 weeks. Oh, well, this is just how it's going to go. And so then we sit down, we do the police report, and the young man and I are in conversation because he was like, my insurance is going to go up if we do insurance. Let's not do insurance. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. We don't need to do insurance. And we agreed to just pay 50-50. I said, I've had work on cars before, done before in this one town, and I'm going to go there tomorrow, get a price. He goes, that sounds good. So I gave him my phone number. He was going to call me after he got off work the next day so I could tell him how much it was. And the policeman, who was a German policeman that worked on the base, he said, you're not going to get this done. It's going to take a while. With COVID, everybody's behind, and it's going to take you a long time to get this fixed. And I was like, well, it is what it is. I had my plane tickets to go home, but I thought, well, it is what it is. And so anyway, so we get that all done, file a police report, everything's done, and I'm driving home. It's probably about a 15-minute drive home, and so I'm in prayer, and I said, God, I don't know what this is. I don't know why this is, but whatever it is, it's in your hands, and I'm okay with it, because this is part of what's going on. This is part of what I'm supposed to be going through. So here we go. It's all in your hands. I'm good with that. Excuse me. I'm going to get a little emotional again. So I get home, and I go into the house, and I'm busy packing things or doing something, and my husband comes home from work, and he comes in the house, and he said, where did he hit you? And I assumed he would have looked at it. And I said, oh, did you look? And he was like, yeah, I can't find it. Where is it? And so I go out there to show him, the damage. There wasn't a scratch on my car. There wasn't a dent. There wasn't paint. I ran my hand up and down the side of that car. I could not find where that gouge was in my car. And I know that sounds incredulous to hear and to believe. Imagine being the person that it happened to. We were both in shock. Shock is an understatement. I just couldn't believe it. I just kept rubbing the side of the car because I was like, what is this? What happened? And as I'm walking into the house, all I could hear was, you're doing the right thing. This is the way it's supposed to go. And at the time, I knew it was an incredible thing. But now I know it's because it's something I needed to share with whoever listens to this and whoever wants to hear me tell that story, because it's incredulous. I agree. But it happened. There's a police report. The young man called me the next day and he said, "So how much did you figure it out? Did you find out?" And I said, "There's nothing wrong with my car." And I was still in shock. And he said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, there is nothing wrong with my car." And he said, "Okay." Well, I said, "No, God took care of it. It's fine." And he probably thought I was nuts. If you're listening to this and you don't believe, you probably think I'm nuts. But there was a police report. There was a policeman. There was 3 people trying to rub that paint off that car. But it was then that I knew, okay, I'm leaving in 2 weeks and I'm doing the right thing. This is how it's supposed to go. What I didn't know was how powerful that was. I mean, of course it's powerful, but how powerful of a statement that is for people who, especially people who are teetering on their faith. Their faith isn't so strong, or they've lost their faith because the world's in such a state, and because that is a powerful statement. It's a powerful thing that happened. But anyway, so we delivered the car on time. I flew to Illinois on time and got off the plane in Chicago again, but this time there were no firemen there to hand out pamphlets. It was October, I think around the 15th of October of 2020, and I think that, we were kind of over it. It was still rampant, I think, at the time, but I think that they weren't following up anyway. No one followed up the first time that I quarantined, but I think that they certainly weren't going to follow up this time. Nobody told me to quarantine, but I did. I did quarantine. I rented a Airbnb for 2 weeks again to quarantine, to keep my family safe as well. I didn't know what I was going to be bringing over from the airport or the base or Germany. One of the saddest things, though, about leaving Germany is because of COVID, I didn't get to say goodbye to my friends, which was sad. They were very strict over there. And so, yeah, hopefully I'll get back and get to say hello and goodbye again. But anyway, so now I'm in Illinois. And the plan, I thought, was to stay until April, when I thought I would go to Arizona and start my life. And that's exactly what I thought it was. But God had different plans. And I'll share that with you in the next podcast. All right. I hope you have a blessed day. And like I said in my first episode, if you have a story that you want to share on here and would like to contact me, you can contact me at Tammy Blake. And Tammy is spelled, I should have clarified that, Tami Blake, Blake, Tammy Blake at tammyblake.com. And hopefully we'll get to chit chat and we'll get you on here. All right. I love you guys. Have a blessed day.